Hello, everyone. Welcome back to yet another political episode. So it's July 12th. We got some news along a couple days ago. Rhode Island governor, former Rhode Island governor Edward DiPrete, has passed away. This is an important governor in Rhode Island because he is the only Rhode Island governor to go to jail. I mean, like, you got New England, you have all these governors that go to jail. I know Illinois has a string of them, but Edward DiPrete is one of the most notorious criminal governors in New England. And we got to talk about him because he just passed away on his 91st birthday out of all days. So first off, kind of going over his background. Yes, it said here he was an American politician. He served as the 70th governor of Rhode Island for three two-year terms, serving from 1985 to 1991. Convicted of numerous corruption charges, he was the only Rhode Island governor to have gone to prison. So, yeah, not really good for Ed DiPrete. So, looking at him, first off, his background was he was the mayor of Cranston, and that is a city in Providence County, which is basically in southwest, southeast. Yes, I don't know southeast Providence County. Near that near that Providence city area, part of the Providence metropolitan area. So he was the mayor of that city, and he ran for governor in '84 in the red wave, and that hoped he would benefit with Ronald Reagan on the ticket, even though during this time, though, polls were relatively very competitive with Walter Mondale. And a lot of people, most forecasters, claimed that Rhode Island would go for Mondale, but it was quite the opposite. And it looks like Edward DiPrete didn't need a cocktail effect, because DiPrete did way better than Reagan did in the state. You can clearly see solid Republican colors, 60% in southern Rhode Island. Just this Providence County, which understandably has the biggest city in Rhode Island as it is, just that city alone just that county alone gave 39% to Anthony J. Solomon. So, yeah, not really the best performance here. Let's see. Did he end up carrying his own city, though, of Cranston? Let's see. You can actually take a look at this result. This is the borders. Oh, yeah, Cranston went solid. 70%. 70% for Mr. DiPrete, Edward DiPrete. 70%. That's how big his name was. And basically, if he did good over here, he's probably going to do better in our conservative areas, like Kent and Washington counties. All right? He runs for re-election, and his popularity continues to climb. You can clearly see in 80 and 86, remember, it's not Rhode Island and New Hampshire. No, it's Vermont and New Hampshire. They are the only two states that do two-term limits. They do 2 years per term. Rhode Island used to do that too. In fact, it was Massachusetts, Connecticut, and even Rhode Island, all these New England states that did 1 year, 1 term. And it was interesting because you were constantly running for re-election. If you will go all the way back, which we're not. But unfortunately, there's no one to review that served only one term and ran every single year because they're all deceased. But Edward DiPrete ran for re-election. He successfully won with 64.7% of the popular vote. This is 1986, relatively more of a blue wave year. But yes, he defeated Bruce Sunderland, who didn't bring anything home. He absolutely took nothing. Absolutely nothing. Bruce Sunderland. And there you go. Just solid map all together. And that makes me think and wonder, because I want to make sure I am getting everything. I want to make sure I'm pulling up the 1984 Republican primary. I noticed there wasn't a Republican primary. No, there wasn't. So I'm guessing DiPrete was elected by the Assembly or the RNC, the state RNC, the state chair, from that. But now you notice in 1988, his popularity's dipped down significantly. And I'm not so sure why. How so? He went from 64.7% to 50. Some say it could be because of the cocktail effect that Michael Dukakis was giving Bruce Sunderland. Because honestly, Bruce Sunderland did actually pretty well. And he would be the next governor of Rhode Island at some point. But yes, like the next one, 91, I want to believe, 1990. But yes, we'll get into that later. But yeah, what happened? Yeah, he's still holding on to his own city. That's good, but not by a 70% margin, not by a 60% margin. Not that. With that goes all of Providence County. So, what was the stakes of this campaign? Maybe we can learn more about the scandals, personal life, yada yada. Governor of Rhode Island. We're looking at specifically the election of 88. Because everything that happens before 1988 is what we need to know. Okay, 1994 is when he begins his indictions. Alright, so I guess he just lost out of pure unpopularity. Maybe he did some stuff. DiPrete was elected in the 1984 gubernatorial election and served as the 70th governor of Rhode Island from 1985 to 1991 and was defeated for re-election in a landslide by former U.S. government attorney and millionaire businessman Bruce Sunderland in the 1990 election, who had previously lost twice in 1986 and 1986 and 1988 to DiPrete. So yeah, as you can clearly see, Bruce Sunderland is getting a boost of popularity. He became very relatively known because he destroys and just wipes DiPrete off the map all over Rhode Island. Can't even win the city of Cranton. It voted for DiPrete. It voted for Sunderland by 60%. But this is devastating. Like, what happened? You ought to be wondering, what happened? They even had a primary. They tried to primary this guy, and, like, you got Steve White looking and judging with the results. You can tell that Edward DiPrete carried every county successfully, but what he didn't carry was nothing in the 1990 gubernatorial race. Sunderland successfully wiping out. It could be a matter of you just served 2 times. Well, here's the deal, though. You can serve as many times as, like, let's just say, Phil Scott. Like, he has to run. He ran, I don't know how many times. He'd be in here for 8 years. He might not run for re-election this time since he kept running over and over, because that's what could happen. Phil Scott could end up like a DiPrete. He loses popularity slowly, because people will be done with you. And then just like that, in 1986, DiPrete kind of had his war. In 1986, in 1980, in 1988, DiPrete kind of had his warning that his jazz is wearing out, and his old opponent, the opponent that couldn't win anything just 2 years ago, just carried half the map. So that this is bad news for DiPrete. And you guessed it, only 2 years later, Bruce Sutherland, the guy that couldn't carry anything, carried everything, literally, by 74%, with leaving Edward DiPrete with nothing. Just saying. And obviously, what followed would be the criminal convictions of Governor DiPrete. What happened, we will actually go and find out. In 1994, DiPrete was indicted on criminal charges relating to the awarding of the state contracts during his service as governor. All charges were dismissed in March 1997 by a Rhode Island Superior Court judge who also found the state attorney general's office guilty of 10 findings of egregious prosecutorial misconduct. He was subsequently charged again, and in December 1998, he pleaded guilty to state charges of bribery, extortion, and racketeering, and was sentenced to a year in prison. In a plea bargain, he also admitted accepting $250,000 in exchange for state contracts during his term as governor. DiPrete agreed to this plea bargain only after receiving assurance that pending charges against one of his sons would be dismissed. Those charges against his son were dismissed in their entirety prior to DiPrete agreeing to the plea bargain. In addition, his state retirement pension was revoked, despite attempts to have it reinstated. DiPrete served 11 months in adult correctional institutions, which is headquartered in his own city. How humiliating. Locking up the mayor. The people that you ran are now locking you up in jail. Not fun. Subsequently, the state Supreme Court overturned the denial of DiPrete's pension benefits to his wife and remanded the case back to Superior Court for a new hearing. Because of a degenerative neurological disease, Miss DiPrete notified the court through her attorney. She wished to terminate the request, and the new hearing, ordered by the Supreme Court, did not proceed. Okay, so that's pretty much all you gotta know. Yeah, it's unfortunate that Mr. DiPrete couldn't celebrate his last birthday, but he's out of jail, obviously. And regardless of his political views, it's kind of, I don't know, I guess he didn't have to be as liberal as Phil Scott if he wanted to be governor, a conservative Republican governor of Rhode Island. He could have ran on Reagan's platform. But if he were to run again, which he can't, for obvious reasons, the reason would be because, yeah, he would have to do a huge platform shift. So, honestly, what do you guys think in regards to this video? Of course, rest in peace to DiPrete and his family. Anyway, see you all in the next political episode.